like stated before, I'm Jocelyn and I will be, my thesis is about the presentation of evolution. Evolution is considered a rock-solid truth among secular scientists, but when you look at the evidence and ask simple questions, you will find their conclusions to be just fragile assumptions, unproven myth, and outright misconceptions, like a glass house built on shifting sands. The new war is not about evolution versus creation, but about Darwinism versus intelligent design. The story of evolution does not have the scientific evidence to support its assertions. However, it does possess an unyielding resolve to erase God's authority over creation. With scientists, including biochemists, geologists, and astrologists, shifting definitions to help their case, evolution can mean something so tiny it hardly matters, or something so big it explains the whole history of the universe. The theory of evolution should not be presented as fact because it is morally wrong to knowingly lie. It is unpredictable and ever-changing, and science can support the Bible. Darwin's idea, along with selected evidence to support it, is becoming embedded in the brains of scholars and public school students through textbooks, media, and casual billboards on the highways. And you will notice as you read books on evolutions that the information continues to change. The science education encourages students to memorize naturalistic doctrine as fact for their tests, and questioning them is enough to make you an enemy of education. It is morally wrong to present and teach a theory as an absolute truth when intelligent design and creation scientists are breaking into the truth of the past with each of their experiments. It is unpredictable because every time the evidence does not support their teachings, they will modify the definitions to broaden the possibilities to prove evolution viable. Science supports the Bible because a formidable number of scientists, ranging from agnostics to Bible-believing Christians, have masterfully presented the biological evidence showing why life could not possibly have formed by natural processes. In addition, the funding for scientific research sometimes depends on the right results, so we must learn to distinguish what scientists assume and what they investigate. In this age with all the technology, we are capable of explaining how and why things happen, but this will not work for everything. Many of these scientists consider supernatural things to be outside of science. They influence others based on personal opinion over facts. Hitler once said, quote, "If we lie long enough, loud enough, and often enough, people will believe it to be true." I now stand ready to be questioned.
Hi, Jocelyn. So, you seem to be passionate about your subject matter, and you seem to care about wanting truth to be told and understood, while also wanting to protect truth from being masked by falsehood. So these are my questions. What made you want to research evolution versus creationism, particularly how it is taught in school?
Why I chose this topic?
Yes.
Okay. I chose this topic because I want to be informed when I inform other people and tell them that they're wrong. And I want to be able to say it in a way that it flows and makes sense. Because I get really heated in this argument. Like, I'm very passionate about this. Did you have another part of the question?
Well, it was particularly how it is taught in school.
How
evolution and creationism is taught in school.
Creationism isn't really taught anymore because in 1987 it was ruled out as unconstitutional and forced religion in schools. But before that, it was fine. That's what they taught. That was the curriculum. But now, with constantly new information coming in, and the past 2 to 3 generations, they've been teaching
resources that most strongly affirmed your conclusion?
I had many, they were all Christian resources. But a few that really had me was the easy to understand guide for defeating Darwinism that I've read recently in the challenge years. And the politically incorrect guide to Darwinism and intelligent design, which I thought was interesting.
Okay, and on the other side, what were some of the resources that most strongly challenged your position? So were there any that challenged your position?
Well, I don't
Where you could see the other side?
Not really, because going into this, I knew that there's no other way that the other side doesn't make sense. My side, I firmly believe that God created us and the world and how it was supposed to be, that we didn't come from an explosion and we're not star bits that have evolved. That's dumb.
Yep, I know what you're saying. So how is your thinking different now at the close of this project than it was at the beginning?
Now I'm more informed about it, and I get less intense about it and less angry when I try to explain to people. I'm more confident. And with this research, I feel like my faith is stronger because I've spent months on this, so it's like putting, it'll help me for if I do have doubts, because I know everyone goes through doubts, and it kind of will remind me, like, that's not possible because this and this and this. This is logically, it makes sense, it fits together. So I feel like that was the answer to your question.
Yeah, absolutely, the confidence, that's so true. Because now you're educated on it, so
Yes.
you can speak with knowledge. What do you think is the root cause between the conflict between science and religion?
Science is defined as a branch of knowledge that knowledge of the physical or material world gained through observation or experimentation. So
let me say it again. So why do you think there's a conflict between science and religion?
because I think there's a conflict because it's a matter of church and state. The state is going against what the church is saying, which we have the authority, which is the Bible, and their science is going off of what we see and what we can test. So, they both have, to an extent, everyone has faith in something. Like, Christians they have faith in the Bible that it's truth and that God did create everything. It makes sense. And others secular scientists, including Darwinists, they have faith that what they think, or the experiments that they do will work the way they think. I feel like I worded that so wrong. Did that answer your question? I don't know.
Yeah. Could you say anything else about the Lakewood case?
I've seen it somewhere. Where the creationist high school teacher. What was your question?
Could you say anything else about that case, the Lakewood case?
I think it was very smart for a creationist high school teacher to say that, to say to the students to examine different worldviews and then come up with their own idea of what they think. I think that was very smart. It wasn't necessarily saying, oh, you have to believe this, or this, you have to believe what I'm teaching you. It was, I want you to think for yourself, which I think is very good to do. Because the way they're teaching kids now, they're just teaching them what's going to be on the test. So that's all the students learn. That's all they'll study for. It's going to be on the test. I have to study that. And they can't really think for themselves. They don't have other worldview options, or they don't see other sides of things in public school.
Right, I see what you're saying. One more question. What do you think is the best way to engage with a staunch supporter of evolution as a Christian?
The best way to engage with them?
With a staunch supporter of evolution.
You'd have to define staunch.
Very firm.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
So if they're very firmly rooted in evolution, how could you engage with them?
I would try not to, because I feel like I would be very mean to them. I'm very defensive of this, and I get really heated. I would ask them simple questions of why do you think this, or why do you think that, and see what they answer, and if they struggle to find an answer. And I would kind of help them see, or your question was to
How would you
get
engage?
along with them.
Well, yeah, how would you engage? Or, yeah.
You don't have to get along with them.
No, you don't have to get along with them, but how would you engage with them? How would you...
How would you engage them?
Yeah, how would the conversation go?
Yeah, I would ask them questions about what they believe and why they think that's possible or logical. And they can ask me questions and I could do my best to answer. And with all my research and knowledge, hopefully they'll see that they're wrong.
Good. Well, thank you. I'll hand you over to John.
I'm so sorry. Hey, so I wanted to go back to some stuff you said. You said that both have a faith. I wanted to give you a chance to continue that. You'd started off strong, and I felt like, as you said, felt like you let us down at the end there. You said that Christians have a faith that in God, and then you said the scientists, what you said was the scientists have a faith that their research would be right, or that their experiments would prove them. Were you looking for another answer, or were you...
Yeah, I was kind of looking for another. I was just kind of trailing on, hoping I would find something, but in the end, humans were designed to worship something, and in the end, everyone worships. Even if they're atheists, they claim not to worship anything. They're still idols that they put things before God. Everyone does that. So evolutionists, their faith would be. Are you asking me what their faith is?
Yeah, you said both people have faith. The Christians who believe in God have a faith in God, and then the or the atheist or the scientist, they would have a faith.
They have they have a faith that there is no superior being, because if there was, they can't put that in science. They don't like, that's why they don't like the idea of it, because they can't scientifically test it.
Okay, I'll let you come back to that. I feel like your facial expressions and your brains, you're still wanting to get to something. Am I right? I know you a little bit. Now, you mentioned earlier, you had said that Christian, you only used Christian resources for your paper. And to unbelievers, they might think that, oh, well, that's just circular reasoning. You're only using stuff that other Christians are going to say to doubt it. Can you tell us those Christian resources are written by Christians? Is that what you're saying? Where do they get their sources from?
One book I have is the Ken Ham and Bill Nye debate. And so obviously Bill Nye, he's the other guy that was part of that. He's part of that source. But a lot of the books I have were, especially Defeating Darwinism, I looked into those sources, and they take back to certain articles and they explain where they changed words, how evolutionists have changed the meaning of words to fit, to explain something or to not offend someone. So
you say those Christian resources have articles. Who are those articles written by?
Evolutionists.
There you go. I was throwing you a bone there. Because when you say that it's Christian resources, somebody who doesn't believe in God is going to be like, oh, well, I don't need to listen to anything Jocelyn says. But those Christian resources are verified and validated by other scientists who don't believe in God. So I just thought I would state that for the panel. I like that on page 1 that you said that the Darwinist evolutionist view is being researched with education grants and supports, that it's government controlled. You wrote the argument is very one-sided and that no other viewpoints are allowed. And that, so this provides an opportunity to completely remove God. I think that's very wise as a young lady to understand that it's not just we want to teach this, we want to remove God from everything that goes on. I wrote down your quote about informing people that they're wrong. Who was your article written to? Yeah, so who was the intended purpose for, let's say that you wrote this article and you wanted somebody to read it. Who did you write it to for to be read by?
Really, anyone, honestly. I mean, I would let my friends read it so they can be informed about this, and then that way they can tell evolutionists that they're wrong.
I think you should hand it to Simeon. You and Simeon would have a good conversation over that. I wrote down on page 2, you said both Lucretius and Darwin leave out the possibility or necessity of a creator. and that neither provide evidence or support their claims. I'm really glad that a lot of the stuff you wrote in here talks about the lack of evidence, the lack of claims, but it's still being taught to us as fact. And since the word science is used, well, if you're smart, you're going to believe science, you know. And so, do you know what the original name of Darwin's theory, the full title, was when he first wrote it? It's very controversial.
I wanted to get the book and read it so bad. The Origin of Species, something like that, right?
Yeah, Darwin's theory of evolution and the origin of species,
Yes.
and there's like a semicolon.
It's about natural selection.
It was about natural selection. It's actually very racist. He talks about the development or the superiority of preferred races. They don't put that in the book anymore. Because as you said, that they are constantly, knowingly changing what they have in there. The original book title was supporting the preferred races. And Darwin was saying that certain colors of skin were more superior than other colors of skin. They don't talk about that anymore. I wonder why. That would offend a lot of people. But that was a fun thing that I learned. You talked about the Scopes monkey trial, that in 1925 they barely allowed evolution to be taught in school, and that roughly 100 years ago, everybody understood that this was crazy.
It's a theory.
It's a theory.
It's an idea.
It's an idea, a theory. But today, you are crazy if you say that it's a theory.
Or you're crazy if you believe that we didn't evolve.
You mentioned earlier that we didn't, I quoted you, I wrote it down, quote, "We didn't come from an explosion and we are not starbits," Jocelyn and Leslie. Where'd you get the starbits thing from? Just from your brain? Just the word?
Yeah, I mean, people say stardust.
Yeah. Okay.
I wanted to say something, it was just kind of flowing out.
Yeah, the reason why people see you were completely right. Starbits, I like that better than stardust. Because starbits sounds more diminutive than stardust. Stardust sounds pretty. Starbits is like, you're a bit of a star. The reason people are doing that today is they're trying to make you feel special and worth something. You don't look down on yourself. You're a piece of a star. It's like.
But it's also kind of
demeaning.
Yeah, because you have no purpose.
Yeah, you're just a rock.
We're just an accident.
You just happened.
But we're not.
I wrote down, or I just highlighted on page 3, you started talking about that it's not testable. Because all science is observable, testable, and repeatable. Page 4, you said Darwin's theory and definitions continue to change. I thought that was awesome. You then wrote on the bottom of paragraph 2, we started talking about the idea of blind chance. And I thought something was punny. So I said, I'm so glad that we didn't evolve by blind chance to develop eyelids before we went blind. So, sorry, it's a little joke there. Thank you. I'll be here until 5. You said here at the very last, or the second last paragraph on page 4, anything alternative is automatically disqualified as religion, as if there's no area for you to say, well, what if?
Yeah, you're not allowed to believe anything else.
Yeah. So then you go through like your whole 3 points here, and I thought that you just nailed these. The theory of evolution should not be presented as fact for 3 reasons. It's morally wrong to knowingly lie. It is unpredictable and ever-changing. And science can support the Bible. I just put a big yes with an exclamation mark there. One of the things you start talking about is it being presented as a lie. It's a known theory, it's absolute fact. I really enjoyed that you were throwing out those hard-hitting words. They're not big words, but they're understandable. They're truthful. This is a theory, but people are putting it as a fact. Darwin stated it, you wrote here in the first paragraph on page 5, 4th line from the bottom. Darwin stated it was a theory, but after further investigation by his followers, then they started going off on it. There's a difference between testing a theory against evidence and using selected evidence that they found certain things that they thought, well, this proves what we're talking about. Aha, these are the emails we were looking for. Sorry, anybody who's talking? And they go there. They were just looking for stuff to toot their own horns. I loved page 6, top of it. 2005, Harvard biologists and Berkeley biologists wrote, everything about evolution before bacterial life-like forms is sheer conjecture. I like that you started citing people who probably don't believe in God, that are going to reputable schools. Right? Nobody's going to be like, okay, you went to Baptist Bible College? I don't care. You went to Harvard? You went to UC Berkeley? Okay, apparently you know more. So let me listen to you. And these guys themselves, I wrote down, it was a good use of smart people. So that they themselves even agree. Third paragraph from the bottom on page 6. Every time the evidence does not support their teachings, they modify the definitions to broaden the possibilities. I'm going to let you speak a little bit because this isn't my time, it's your time. What do you mean that they would modify definitions to broaden possibilities?
So when the evolutionists give a definition, say evolution, and it'll say a certain thing. I have it defined in the back as a change in the gene pool of a population from generation to generation by such process as mutation, natural selection, or genetic drift. It Evolution, if you ask them questions, they will work around the definition. Like if you bring proof to say, well, if that's possible, then how did this happen? Because this is scientifically been proven, or yes, they'll reword their definition or change a few words. That way it will work for them. And each science book that you read, it changes every time. All their information changes.
That was true for me. I used to be, my parents were Christians from the time I was born, and they took me to church all the time. And I don't want to go off of an anecdote, but for me, when you mentioned the broad of the possibilities, I'm glad you mentioned that. In 4th grade, my science book said 1 million years. But then, and that was in 4th grade. And when I was in 9th grade, the same brand of science book for the 9th graders said like 3 trillion years. And that's what really started getting me to consider stuff like, because I never want to listen to my parents when they tell me not to cross my eyes because it'll make my eyes stay that way. So I questioned everything, and when I hit 9th grade in Biology 1 Honors and I saw that, I'm thankful that that was something that you recognized there, that you mentioned the science books, that's one of the biggest defenses as a Christian would have to say, if we know so much, why are these things always changing within a matter of 4 to 5 years, completely rewriting the science books? So when you said broaden the possibilities there, I was hoping you would mention those science books. You also wrote at the second to last paragraph, if you look at the paragraph now, you will see that the words unsupervised and impersonal were taken out. And I'm glad you wrote that. It's the doctor, everything. Can you give a comparison between macro and microevolution?
Microevolution is a small change in the species over a short period of time, whereas macroevolution
example of what an evolutionist would consider macroevolution to be, or an example of the animal or the type is macroevolved? Okay, perfect. All right. And then you gave me the Finch one. Okay, good. So yours is too easy. I got a whole bunch of things written down here. I'm trying to skip over some of them. Page 8. A formidable number of scientists, ranging from agnostics to Bible-believing Christians, have masterfully presented the biological evidence showing why life could not possibly have formed by natural processes. Again, you're not just quoting Christians. You're quoting people who don't believe the Bible, but believe the same thing about intelligent design. And I thought, again, right there, if we as Christians only say, well, the Bible says, well, I don't believe the Bible. I'm not a Christian, so why should I believe what you say? You got to hit them where it counts. Their masters and lords are science. And so when you're saying that, hey, even scientists disagree with other scientists, then it starts working with them. Page 9. You only have like 20 pages, so we're good. You guys just wait. The fossil, second paragraph about the midway, right after National Geographic, says the fossil records support creation and 95% of fossils are marine invertebrates. These highly complex creatures are found on mountains, deserts, and every layer of various evolution eras. This supports the historical and biblical account of the flood of Noah's day. I thought that was awesome. I thought that's, again, when you are conversing with somebody who would put down the Bible, one of your easiest evidences is that flood. If you believe in fossils, you believe in science, how did this fish get on top of it? How did this whale get on top of this mountain? So I see that you've done a lot of digging in this. So the other one is I wrote down scientific